And we're back. We are here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois, in the United Center, in the house that Mike built. And my guest is A. Scott Bolden, chair of the National Bar Association PAC and attorney extraordinaire.
Yes,
my brother.
I like that.
Man, it's good
to be here.
It's good to see you, Scott. So let's start with a question that I've been asking a lot of my guests, and that is, what is in this 2024 election for the communities of color? Why should they care?
Well, they ought to care because leadership at the top that looks like us, sounds like us, and is for us, and only for us, is super important. The economy is the number one issue here, inflation, right? And at least the bullet point proposals on the economic side that Kamala Harris has proposed are targeted for the least, the lost, and the left out, the working class, the middle class. You know, inflation is at a higher level, even though wages are outpacing inflation right now in the last, say, 3 or 4 months. So inflation's trending downward. What isn't trending downward is housing. And the ability that young people don't believe they have the ability to pay off their student loans. They also don't have the ability, in their opinion, to buy their first home. You know, that is the one piece of wealth, no matter what, that this country stands on. If you have nothing else and you got a job, if you have a home, you can pay your bills.
You have an asset.
You have an asset, a big asset. And you can also finance a high school as well as college education for your kids. That's super important, not just to black people, but to brown people and all people of a non-color too. So it's an important issue. And then she's going to look out for the least, the lost, and the left out. She's going to look out for the black and brown communities because she's always looked out for them. She's always led and then always fought for the people. That's important. And so, yeah, that's what's in it for our communities of color.
There's an awful lot of energy in this space.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, had this been held then, there would not have been that level of energy.
Yeah.
How does the campaign, how do they leverage that energy and how do they build on that, the momentum, and carry that forward through November 5th?
Well, they got 500 million reasons to continue to set forth. That's a lot of money and a lot of organization. Just putting her foot to the pedal, the pedal to the metal, driving that success, driving that message, and more importantly, driving get out the vote. You see, in the end, campaigns and politics are pretty simple.
Right.
You got to get one more vote to the next guy.
Right.
It ain't never stopped. That's all it is, right? And so your ground game, energizing your base is one thing, but getting your base to the polling in swing states and beyond. That's what this campaign is all about. Energy helps a lot. Volunteers help a lot. White dudes for Kamala Harris help a lot.
Right.
Asian women for Kamala help a lot. And you see all these groups of color and non-color coming together because they were looking for an alternative. This is a country starving for decency, decent leadership. You want to make America great again, let's get rid of the divisiveness and let's talk about the middle. Because the far left and the far right, they have their challenges, but most of Americans are in the middle, and they want both sides to work well together to create a better America in search of a more perfect union. Kamala Harris and Waltz do that for us. And so I think that's where the energy comes from. And that's what they got to do. They got to get them to the polls and not just win, but win big. So there's no challenge to their Democratic success.
It's being reported, the rumor is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to drop out of the race on Friday.
Yeah.
And it is also rumored that he will announce that he's now backing former President Donald Trump.
Good. Good for him.
What are your thoughts on those dynamics? Because this can go a couple of ways.
So what?
Elaborate.
So what?
Okay.
He's not a factor. He's never been a factor. And he's not going to change or add much. She's polling at 5%.
Right.
He was only on the ballot in 2 or 3 states. And he's a non-factor. He never has been. His family
Bishop
doesn't even support
like
him. His family don't even like you. You know, when your family don't like you,
you got a problem.
no, I mean, Robert.
When he's not going to be invited to Thanksgiving dinner, there's a problem.
No, he'll be sitting on the porch with the rest of the people, with the other people who are persona non grata. My mother used to put people on the front porch if she didn't like them or they got on her nerves, and so he'd be on the front porch. Listen, he's got he's got limited support, maybe 5%. And he's got nowhere to go. He's not welcome in the Democratic Party because he's the one that's caused some of the challenges during the first year of this Biden-Harris campaign. Secondly, he's a conspiracy theorist. You know, he's got conspiracy theories about the Jews, about black people, about COVID. He's never found a place in this political spectrum. He played with the Libertarians for a while. They didn't want him. He played with the Democrats. They certainly didn't want him because they were behind Biden, because our democracy is at stake and we cannot let Trump win. And so now he's playing as an independent, but he hasn't been on the ballot. He has problems getting on the ballot. So he really has nowhere to go.
Is this really more sizzle and no steak? This is going to be a media attention. He's going to announce what he's going to announce, and a few folks are going to chat about it on the mainstream media, and then we move on to Saturday.
I don't know, but I don't see any sizzle or steak.
Okay.
You know, I see someone who's taken the only option available to him after trying several options.
Because I was told one of the options that he tried was he came to the Harris campaign and they told him to go pound sand.
Well, they never got back to him because they don't need him. Trump doesn't need him. He needs Harris. He needs Trump. He needs the Libertarians. He's fighting for relevance. And it's actually pretty sad because every human being is relevant, right? But he wants more relevance, right? He's got the name. He's got these ideas. But there's no place for him. And if there's no place for him, then he needs to go away.
If every human being is relevant, how can the DNC not allow a pro-Palestinian spokesperson on the stage this evening?
Well, I think we're all pro-Palestinian as Democrats. You don't hear any anti-Palestinian, and we're anti-Hamas, and we're all pro-Israel. Everything the protesters want, whether they want a show on the stage or a show out here in the streets, everything they're demanding of the Biden administration, short of not sending bombs to our strongest ally and our only democracy in the Middle East, right? And that they have a right to defend themselves.
Well, it's a democracy unless you're Palestinian.
Well, it's a complicated relationship. But we are at odds with Israel on several issues, including how they executed the war.
The relationship between oppressor and oppressed isn't really that complex.
Well,
genocide is pretty simple.
Well, the U.S., the only part in that is they have to support that only democracy. Without a two-state solution, I don't think the U.S. supports how they've executed the war. I don't believe they support, the U.S. or the Democrats support the developments in the West Bank or how Palestinians are treated in Gaza. It may be complicated, but the U.S. doesn't support that as a policy, and Biden and Harris have said that. At the same time, though, Hamas could end this war right now. Turn over the hostages, right? Just turn over the hostages in this war, in this conflict. So you can blame Israel for a lot of things, but you can't blame Israel for this war when Hamas started it, and Hamas is holding these hostages, including some American hostages. So let's be fair in our analysis, and fair in our analysis of how Israel has implemented the war against Hamas, because I don't think anybody's seeing 50,000 people killed and 2,000-pound bombs dropped on refugee camps to kill Hamas where the leaders aren't even there, they're in Qatar, is the right way to go, even if you got the right to defend yourself.
Well, history didn't start on October 6th. It started in 1947.
No doubt.
And that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Attorney extraordinaire, A. Scott.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Thinking enough of me to have me. Thank you.
Folks, you are here at the DNC, here in Chicago, Illinois, in the United Center. Stay right here, Politics in Color. There's a whole lot more on the other side.